Hello, I'm Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and welcome back to my channel. I will be your astrologer for the May lunar eclipse in Scorpio. On May 5th, we will have a lunar eclipse at 14 degrees Scorpio, 58 minutes, occurring at 1:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Here, we're going to look at the chart of the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Here's the chart. Now, the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio features a lovely formation with the Sun conjunct Uranus and the Moon in opposition. And laying across this opposition line, we have Venus squaring Neptune. Now, they're not squaring the Sun or the Moon, they are squaring each other, but they are equal distance from that opposition, making it kind of like a bow and arrow configuration. Now, if we had a few more connections between Venus and Neptune to the moon, we would call this a kite formation, but we don't quite have that. Nevertheless, it is an important formation. So both Venus and Neptune form sesqui squares to the Sun and Uranus. And this is a very creative aspect. And it's important because it will often also coincide with actual events that impact all of us. Now, fortunately, we do not have planets at those certain degrees in Leo or Aquarius, either one of which would create a T-square with this eclipse and predict a much more dangerous situation. Scorpio is intense, passionate, emotional, and they can take offense where none is intended. Try not to obsess or give in to your compulsions. Just realize that you will feel more possessive at this time, and you must prepare yourself for the fact that something or someone is going to leave your life, and you may not want to let it go. If you look on the positive side, you might be able to realize that the eclipse can allow you to let go and move on. And since Scorpio loves that all or nothing quality of the eclipse, you may find this somewhat of a relief. Now, Venus is sextile Jupiter, and this brings opportunities to make money on both sides of the zodiac, on Taurus and Scorpio. So find out where Taurus and Scorpio are in your natal chart and see if you can manifest some extra dollars in those areas of your life. This may also mean drama over money markets and big changes over money markets or money in general. Uranus and the Sun are both in Taurus, supporting this type of activity. The heightened sensitivity of the Sun-Moon opposition does not help the square between Venus and Neptune. If anything, it exacerbates the delusional quality of those two planets. It leaves people feeling paranoid and fearful. The involvement of Uranus conjunct the Sun is worse news. We also have Mars trining the Moon. Here's Mars up in Cancer, trining the Moon in Scorpio, which means that feelings might be able to be smoothed over by other players involved, but that sensitivity that is involved will be at a very, very heightened level. Now, so far, our eclipse cocktail consists of the full moon eclipse, a time when people really let their crazy hang out. Also, a fun time when the universe makes decisions for you about what should leave and what should come into your life. The Sun conjunct Uranus, when eccentricity, defiance of authority, electricity, and radical uniqueness is embraced. Mars square Jupiter, where when things get physical, they will get enlarged, expanded, and glorified. Venus square Neptune, where cultishness prevails. So, sounds like a good time, right? Wrong. It's all wrong, and we have to be careful here. Let's move on now to the planetary influences for this eclipse. Mercury retrograde in Taurus. Now, don't forget, Mercury's still retrograde, so don't sign anything. Just do research, reviews, analysis, things like that. All the Mercury retrograde things, but don't sign anything. And if you don't know what to do about Mercury retrograde, please take a look at my Mercury playlist and watch all the videos. Overall, people will be misunderstanding everything they see, hear, think, and do. And they will be adamant that they are right and that they do understand it. But it also means that things that are decided, purchased, spoken for, etc., will be rescinded once Mercury goes direct. Sun conjunct Uranus means that fire could be involved, or a person of great importance, or both. Also, electricity or technology will most likely be involved, or even something concerning outer space, such as that weather balloon that came from China. In general, weirdness and obtuseness reign. You'll find many people spouting off philosophies and theories that they would normally not even believe or even listen to. It will feel like you are in upside down world. Unfortunately, it will also bring out the self-righteous side of folk, and they may decide it's the right time to start defending their beliefs with their fists. Mars square Jupiter. I've already said it. If things get physical, they will get enlarged, expanded, and glorified. Oh, hooray. More glory for the bad guys. Venus square Neptune. The square of Venus-Neptune usually brings about delusional qualities and possible cult activities at worst. But, at the very least, people, all people, should be careful about what they believe at the time of this full moon, especially when it comes to their money. Since we already have about 25% of our country believing in a cult of some kind, this may not seem out of the ordinary. But I think this eclipse, and I'm praying I'm right, may be the moment when a lot of people decide to let go of these cultish fantasies. It just could be this big moment that happens and helps a lot of people wake up and shake off the influence of the cult leaders. Now, I've pulled a couple of charts of some people in the news, and I have a few comments about what's going on for them before I get into predictions for all 12 signs. This is the chart for Clarence Thomas at the time of the eclipse. Now, he has Pluto sitting on his ascendant for the last few years, so things have not been hunky-dory for him in quite a while. However, having Pluto there does give him a feeling of great power and a connection to people in power, and that would explain his connection with Mr. Crow. Now, Pluto representing Mr. Crow means that phase is coming to an end in his life because Pluto is moving into his second house. Now, Pluto will be conjuncting his natal moon, which is at the beginning of his second house, in January 2025, actually January 11th, 2025, which is when I think he will be stepping down, if not before. If he's already off the bench before then, this date could signal an even bigger come down for his reputation and legacy. There's nothing alarming happening with this eclipse for Clarence Thomas. Transiting Mars is quincunx his natal Jupiter, which means goodbye sugar daddy. So from this point on, he won't be getting anything more from Harlan Crow. And I believe I have heard in the news that this is because Harlan Crow is going to urge him to leave. He does have transiting Saturn trining his Sun, Venus, and Mercury, so for a while he will be able to finesse his current situation and keep things at bay, meaning he'll probably stay on the bench somehow, despite urgings from everybody around him telling him to step down. Unfortunately, with his transiting Sun applying to a square of his natal Saturn, this will be the beginning of public trials in general. If not actual trials, then he'll just be roasted in the media. Let's hope he takes the hint and leaves the bench sooner rather than later. Now, this is the chart for Lindsey Graham and Miss Lindsey. We do not have a birth time for Miss Lindsey, but most likely she has either Libra or Pisces rising. But I'm going to stick to things that are outside of the house system just to be on the safe side, because I don't want to make a wild guess. So Lindsey is going to suffer from the eclipse because of all the involvement of his Sun and Saturn. This is not a great time in his life. Saturn's sitting on his natal moon at the time of the eclipse, and it won't let up. Saturn, remember, sits through a sign for about 2.5 years, sometimes 3. Look for news about Lindsey seeking treatment or hiring lawyers or both. He's definitely going to be engaging professionals of some kind. Chiron is squaring his sun, so Lindsey doesn't want to succumb to medical professionals. However, this might be a great time for him to do it given his legal liabilities, so he may decide to do it for that reason. He will definitely be fighting his demons during this time, and it's going to be a tough time. Now look for Lindsey to be noticeably changed by this experience. His Saturn is getting a pounding from this eclipse, plus his moon is getting a pounding from Saturn. So let's all say a prayer for poor Lindsey and let him do his healing. God only knows what he's going to do about all these lawsuits, but if he can get sober, it will go a lot better for sure. Now let's move on to Rudy Giuliani. Rudy has the eclipse planets creeping through his 8th house, which touches his Mercury. Mercury actually rules his 9th house, which is where we look when people have lawsuits. The 8th house mainly interacts with lawsuits when they are given big settlements of money that have to be divided among several people. Given the fact that he was not being paid by Trump for his services, this spells bad news for Rudy and would explain why he's looking like he's going downhill. Although Venus is transiting his Saturn and midheaven right now, you would think he's doing great, but he's not. This more than likely means that he's drinking too much. It sextiles his natal moon, which is causing him to be extremely self-indulgent. Mars will be hitting his natal Mars-Pluto conjunction at the end of May, which is when you'll be hearing about Rudy's personal lawsuits. Not going to be fun for him. The Sun traveling with Uranus will also bring bad news, unpredictability, erratic things, chaos. This is what's going to be happening for him in the next few weeks of May. Not a happy time. And then we come to one of the charts I was particularly curious about, which is Kevin McCarthy. Kevin has everything building up in his 12th house right now, and especially around this eclipse. He's going to be feeling increasingly alone, abandoned, and forgotten. He's going through his 2nd Saturn return, so no bueno for him at this time. He's going to have a reckoning and be brought to account for his actions, because that's what Saturn does. Pluto is approaching his natal sun, also not bueno, but this doesn't actually hit in full until 2026. But Pluto will be retrograde for several months, so it's going to keep going over the same degrees that it's been going over for the last basically 2 years. In October, Pluto will go direct, and it will be in 2027 when it hits planets exactly for Kevin. His hardest years are going to be 2026 and 2027, but I'm pretty certain he will not be in Congress after 2024. He does have energy and opportunity to pull a trick out of his hat. He may succeed, surprisingly, similar to when he succeeded being voted in as Speaker. This will be a short-lived victory due to Saturn's influence, and as with anything in life, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. And now that he's got it, he is suffering. So, bye-bye, Kevin. The next chart we have up is Jim Jordan. Jim's been in the news quite a bit, so let's see. Now, Jim is not going to be affected too much by this eclipse, but he was definitely affected by the one before this, the one in April. That's what cost him getting a lawsuit against him courtesy of Alvin Bragg. Now, I'm guessing at a time for Jim's birth because we don't know the time officially. He is a sensitive little snowflake who's prickly and easily offended. The planetary lineup for him currently is going to bring him more heartache when it comes to the cult he so dearly loves. Saturn traversing what I think is his 11th house will bring him heartache. Also, this puts Pluto right on top of his midheaven opposing Mars, which means pretty much curtains to his career. He's really getting hit from all sides, all the while pretending that he's fine. The only thing that will save him is that Neptune has passed by his Venus, so perhaps he will be able to see the truth for what it is. When all those planets from the eclipse finally hit his moon and then his Mars, he will be so butthurt that he just wants to curl up and die. I predict at that time he will leave Congress. This could happen within a month. If he doesn't actually leave, he will lose all his committee seats and be humiliated. Bye-bye, Jim. Next, we have Vladimir Putin. Now, if Vladimir is still alive, then his planets for this eclipse are building up along his 7th house, which means that his closest allies and his more fervent enemies will be in focus at the time of the eclipse. The eclipse moon is crossing his natal moon in his 1st house just prior to May 5th, the date of the eclipse. Also, transiting Mars is conjuncting natal Uranus, meaning that he may take a surprise action on the world stage, which will backfire. So look for that at the beginning of May, which is, I hope you're seeing this video when it's still April, because what I'm predicting is that towards the beginning of May, or right on the eclipse, or maybe within the week of the eclipse, that he's going to do some big surprise action that's going to backfire big time. All in all, this eclipse is going to leave him feeling extremely uncomfortable, and that may be because of his health issues, and only a release of energy will ease the feeling of pressure and buildup. Now, whether this is a transition or a change to his health situation, which I highly doubt. I feel that he's too far gone to have a big reversal in his health issues. But and he could already have transitioned for all I know. We just don't really know because the media is so veiled when it comes to Russia. So as I said, if he's still with us, then this is what's going to be happening. And then we come to the big orange menace, Donald Trump. Now, transiting Mars is conjunct his natal Saturn and Venus, indicating a lot of activity concerning rules. Saturn rules and law. So, and then Venus rules money. So, yeah, Donald Trump's getting a lot of activity in the courts, and a lot of it focuses on his money. Mars is also damaging his relationships with everyone around him, and we have seen this in action in the news, that he's just doing everything he can to blow up every relationship he's ever had. His feeling of uncomfortability is emphasized by Mars making a quincunx to his natal moon. Saturn squares his 2nd house planets, Neptune, Juno, Chiron, and Jupiter, and this is going to continue until March and April of 2026. So this man has about 2 years of heartache going on, and it's not going to let up anytime soon. Uranus crosses his midheaven at the end of March 2025, so a year from now, which I believe will be the end of his lawsuits, but by that time his fortunes will be turned upside down. He has a buildup of planets from the eclipse and in general in his 9th house, which is the legal implications. So no wonder he's experiencing so many lawsuits. So in general for Mr. Orange, it's no bueno. It's not good. He's just having a lot of things hit him all at the same time. And I don't really see him coming out of this until 2026, really. He will have an easing up of all of the lawsuits by 2025, but that just means that all of them will have been filed and brought to some sort of a judge at that point. A judge will have seen pretty much everything about all the lawsuits pending against him by next year, 2025, March. But the Saturn pounding that he's going to be taken will not let up until March or April of 2026. So he's just in a world of hurt. He's just not going to be having a happy ride at Disneyland, shall we say, for the next 2 years. Sorry. Okay. Now, this is a very complicated eclipse. So I'm going to keep my predictions for the 12 signs focused on the sun and the moon, with Mercury retrograde thrown in because you can't ignore Mercury retrograde. But I want to say up front that anyone who has sensitive planets and points in the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, anywhere from 5 to 22 degrees, will be affected the most and the most adversely by this eclipse. You may feel it now, in a month, or sometime in the next 6 months, but you will feel it. Now, some people get influence of the eclipse a week before the eclipse, the day before the eclipse, or even a month before the eclipse. And that would be those people who have the points and planets that I just mentioned. If you have planets or points in Virgo or Capricorn, this eclipse will go easier on you, and you may be happy with the results. Just remember that right now Mercury is retrograde, so any delays will most likely accrue to your benefit. For Cancer and Pisces, you may likewise have a fairly easy go of it with the eclipse. And now let's get into the individual signs. And before I do, I'm going to pause this recording, go take my allergy medicine, and see if I can clear up my congestion so that you can understand me a little better on this video. Thanks. Okay, I'm back, and my allergy medicine has kicked in, so I hope you can hear that I'm not as congested as I was. So yay, happy days. I also want to point out that I am recording this on the solar eclipse on April 20th, and I'm hoping that that's a good thing. Anyway, I hope all of you watched my video about the solar eclipse and my April astrology and full moon videos. For May will be this lunar eclipse video and the May astrology video. So let's get on for predictions for all the signs. So, of course, I'm going to go in order of the zodiac. The first one is Aries. And Aries, this eclipse will affect your 2nd and 8th houses, both of which are connected to finance. However, the Sun and Mercury retrograde fall in your 2nd house for income, values, and talents. So you need to be careful about spending too much or buying something extravagant or electronic. You may find that it comes with something wrong with it, or it's actually broken, or it's just not what you expect. Or it may just be way too much money and you regret the purchase. In addition, there could be an old bill that appears out of nowhere that really screws up your budget. The moon is in your 8th house, so you'll be feeling some pressure from your partner concerning investments or finances, a lot of emotion involved there. It could also impact the intimate side of your relationship. You'll be very emotional right now yourself in both of these areas of life, and you may be caught unawares at how strong these emotions actually are. We are talking about Taurus and Scorpio. Try to focus on what is causing you to react so strongly. This could point to traumas or past events and relationships that still cause you pain. You've got to face those demons, and now that the eclipse is upon you, you'll be forced to face it whether you want to or not. Suck it up. Either get a therapist or sit down with your partner and hash it out. The time has come and you will have no choice. Aries hates to be forced into things, but think of it as an emotional challenge rather than a demand. You will meet the challenge, and you will overcome those demons if you allow yourself to dig deep. Most likely, due to the Mercury retrograde, this is an issue that you have come close to facing in the past, but always backed away and tucked it away in a closet called denial. Well, the door to that closet has been blown off by the eclipse, and it's time to face things straight on. You can do this, Aries, and you and your partner will be glad for it when it's over. It may not be resolved all in one night. It may take a few days, weeks, or even a few months to get this all squared away, but it's something that you really need to do in order to move forward. And now let's move on to Taurus. Taurus, this eclipse falls across your 1st and 7th houses. You will be grappling with issues of your own identity and understanding or acknowledging how others see you. You may be concerned with how the world sees you too. But for the moment, just getting a handle on how your image and actions impact your partner may be more important. You have evolved, matured, changed, but perhaps you have not allowed your personal feelings to grow with you. Perhaps you still feel like you were 20 years ago. It's time to be honest with what you see in the mirror and how the world sees you. Are your relationships ones that will help you continue to grow? Are your relationships reflective of who you are now? These are big questions. And if you haven't been keeping current with who you are, where your values are today, the universe just might kick you into actions that will cause your relationship to come into question or even end. Expect yourself to be really emotional about relationships and to want to express things just to feel better or to let off some pressure. The Sun and Mercury retrograde may be reminding you of situations and characteristics of many years ago, or even bring people back from the past into your life. These are all going to help you navigate this eclipse and to understand what's going on. Although you may not experience all of this on the eclipse day, it may come through in a week, a month, even 6 months, but don't be in a hurry for things to change. Appreciate that you will have time to evaluate and understand what's happening, even if you don't want it to happen. Eclipses bring out needed changes in our lives and help us move on. This is your time to move on. And now, Gemini. The eclipse falls across your 12th and 6th houses. The moon will spur emotional reactions to anything in your daily life that you feel is doing you no good. For example, you may be a smoker, in which case you'll give up cigarettes. You may be overweight, and as a response, you'll either begin a new way of eating or an exercise program, or both. There will be some emotional responses to what you see in your daily life as unhealthy practices. In addition, your response to your environment may also have you focusing your energies towards taking care of yourself in a better way from the inside out, such as meditating, taking breaks, spending time outdoors, going to a gym, going to a church, doing things that get your mind off the grind of everyday life. Cancer. The Scorpio eclipse falls across your 11th and 5th houses, putting the focus on friends, groups, wishes, luck, love, and children. This eclipse is not so bad for you as a water sign. Pisces is similarly situated. You may find yourself making goals or pursuing dreams from years past during this eclipse. You may set yourself up to fulfill a goal set long, long ago. Travel to a particular country, jumping out of an airplane, retirement, etc. You will respond to this eclipse knowing that there is a time for everything, and right now is the time that you need to do what you need to do. In addition, you will be expressing yourself creatively with passion. You may express this by creating things, including children. This could be anything that makes you happy and allows you to have fun. Your inner child will be let loose, and you may find yourself enjoying activities that you haven't done in a very long time. So enjoy this release of your creative nature and feel free to pursue your goals. Leo. Now, this eclipse will be difficult for you, Leo. It falls across your 10th and 4th houses. The sun will be in your 10th house along with Mercury retrograde, and the moon will be in your 4th house. You'll focus your emotions on your home and domestic situations, including your family, for most of the period covering the eclipse. The moon will be in your 4th house, where you will be very emotional about your family and the impact your job and career has on them. You may feel you need to change one or the other in order to better serve who you are today. Feelings of guilt or dissatisfaction may make you feel things need to change to bring you more in line with your current values. Your career may not match your career goals and desires for a better work-life balance. Something from the past may come back in regards to your career for better or worse, and you will need to deal with that as well. You will have opportunities to see what your legacy may be. Your career will also be highlighted with a chance to improve your salary or receive a reward of some kind, but that Mercury retrograde will delay the payoff. All in all, you will feel pressure on both fronts, home and career, to be true to yourself and to fulfill your destiny. Virgo. Virgo, you are one of the lucky ones this month. With the actual full moon falling in your third house, you'll be changing your mind a lot, which can make you feel insecure. Believe that you are just trying on different ideas rather than being wishy-washy. You're looking for new ways of things to do, where to go, how to handle your life. You may decide to gain more education or even go into a different field or industry altogether. The Sun and Mercury retrograde are both in your ninth house, causing you to look beyond your borders or to revisit lands you've visited before. This may not be other countries. This may be different places where they speak other languages, such as music, dance, outer space, the internet, the law, publishing, where they speak all languages. You may be expanding your own borders in a new, significant way. The Mercury retrograde means it is the time to plan this change in your life, but the actual execution of your plan will come later. Don't hesitate to think big, Virgo. We are talking about your life here, so don't hesitate to go for the gusto. Libra. Libra, you're another sign that skates pretty nicely during this eclipse. Here we get the emphasis on your 8th and 2nd houses. Emotional spending may cause you to buy something that is just for the moment and not really needed. So be careful with that credit card, Libra. Retail therapy is not always good for you. Ask yourself, why do you need to spend so much? What are you trying to fill up? What has caused that big hole in your heart, which in turn creates a hole in your wallet? Now is the time to build yourself up emotionally and forgive yourself. Love yourself for anything that may not have been for your highest good. The Sun and Mercury in retrograde are in your 8th house, where you'll focus more on your joint finances, sex, death, and taxes. So much ego wrapped up in this area for you. Have you put enough away for retirement? Do you have enough in savings? Is your sex life good enough? Are you and your partner insulated against financial hardship? So much ego. You can let go of many of these worries if you speak to your partner and review your plan. In addition, Mercury is retrograde in that house, so it's a great time to review. Do not make changes until Mercury is direct, but review, 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 and that means to discuss with your partner. Lighten up about your own personal spending and ability to earn, and remind yourself of how much you have done up to this point. Also, stand in gratitude for your own talents and skills that have allowed you to be a substantial earner or caretaker or whatever in your family. Scorpio. Scorpio, this eclipse falls across your 7th and 1st houses, so it kind of hits you right between the eyes. No one likes to be reminded of their shortcomings, and you do this to yourself in a profound Scorpion way during this eclipse. Whenever you have a Scorpio full moon, you are tense, anxious, touchy, and prone to lashing out. Your partner probably plans their getaway weekends around this full moon. The 7th house is getting the Sun and Mercury retrograde over it, meaning that your partner is getting more sunshine than you are right now. And for most Scorpios, that's fine. You don't mind being in the background as long as you are pulling the strings. But your understanding of your own image and place in the world will also be at issue during this eclipse, so you need to look closely at all of that. How are you being seen? Do you think of yourself as you were then or as you are now? Is your relationship giving you what you need? Do you and your partner really help and support each other, or are you just going through the motions? It's eclipses like these that point out weaknesses in relationships so that you can take steps to bolster the relationship or end it. With the Sun in the 7th house, you may not want to end a relationship, but you may have it tested. Remember, Mercury retrograde will cause delays in things having to do with your partner. Sagittarius. This eclipse falls across your 12th and 6th houses. The moon in the 12th will cause you to dig deep into your own psyche, facing up to any demons that lay there. But you will also find within yourself the resources to get your own answers about where your spiritual path lies. Don't be afraid to trust what you find. The Sun and Mercury retrograde in your 6th house may mean some foul-ups on your job or in your daily routine. You may forget your keys, get lost, have bad traffic. You may get to work late. You may have a minor household emergency to deal with. Now, while the Sun may give you rewards or a raise or new authority or just be recognized by authorities, the Mercury retrograde will delay all the gratification. It will come just later after Mercury is direct. However, that may also work to your benefit. Capricorn. Capricorn has the moon in their 11th house and the Sun with Mercury retrograde in their 5th. So this won't be so bad for you in that it is not hitting a cardinal house, 1, 4, 7, or 10. But you still will feel the eclipse. The moon will have you perhaps changing your goals and things that you were doing to fulfill your dreams, including perhaps dropping out of some groups or meeting new people and joining new groups. The whole social structure that pertains to the goals you've set for yourself, including retirement, will change in regards to the people you surround yourself with. Many things will change, including your goals, but you may not be able to take concrete steps until Mercury is direct. Or you may make the changes and have to make them again because you didn't think them through what you did in the first place. On the more personal side, you will feel a surge of creative energy and a need to act on it. Your creative, artistic side or your involvement with children or sports or gambling or even investing will be a focus during this eclipse. And remember, the eclipse action will often take place a week or a month prior to the actual eclipse, or a week, month, or even 6 months after the event. Aquarius. Aquarius. For you, Aquarius, the 4th and 10th houses take the focus for this eclipse. This will be a hard eclipse for you, as there will be changes forced upon you and taken out of your control. You'll want to take time to focus on your family and make any changes that are necessary in order to make you and your family happy. Again, this may be taken out of your hands. Changes to your domestic situation may be quick, sudden, and even unwanted, but some things may reverse due to Mercury retrograde, so wait a month before you get too excited about all of it. Your career may be changed in some way in order to serve you better. Stay alert for things that come up concerning your career. You may decide that it's time for a change and that you need to make a drastic change. Don't hold back. Embrace the change if you can. Lots of things will be written for you, but the actual changes may not happen until Mercury is direct. There may be things you dearly love that have to end, and that part will be hard. But remember, the universe is making way for something much better for you, and the changes will be valuable and beneficial. I know you're a fixed sign, Aquarius, and you don't like others making decisions for you. But this will be out of your hands, and better to handle it graciously than to make yourself look a fool. Pisces. Pisces, like Cancer, this eclipse will not be too bad for you. The Sun and Mercury retrograde will have you coming up with all sorts of seemingly new ideas for projects, cleanups, renovations, new books, whatever. Just tons of creative endeavors will pour out of you during this eclipse. However, your heart will be all about the changes to things you've learned or studied in the past. Now you will want to explore things all over the world. The 9th house is not just the house for foreign things. It's the house for things that use a different language, certain philosophies, travel, to be sure, religions, especially the more exotic religions, the legal industry, outer space, the internet, computers, music, dance, art in general. All these things use a different language to communicate to us what they are. Even the publishing industry, as publishing speaks all languages. So, things you remember and embrace from your childhood will be easily changed, but that's not what you want. Things in the 9th house will represent other places you want to go, but you will need a boost to get there, which you will get from the eclipse. Well, that's everything I have to say about this spectacular lunar eclipse in Scorpio. I'm very appreciative of you staying until the end of this video. I am Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone. I hope you'll visit my website, thecoolcrone.com, or follow me on Instagram and Meta. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.